No, Green? It's Alan Mosak. I'm trying to get. Oh, I see. Sure, it's Thursday. Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay, thank you. I don't hear anything. You're muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good morning. Yeshikoach on the Aliyah. Okay. What? I'm going to just start with the learning sponsors, and then hopefully by that time, most of the guys will be upstairs. I think you're right. Encourage him on Monday and Thursdays to daven a little faster. Okay. Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Garlick in memory of Malka Proman and Philip Mann, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna Bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, and in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi. Of Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, the memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Elbas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Cadell Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon and Martha Gitler, China bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna bat Yitzchak. A Month of Learning by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi, by Boca Babes in memory of their dear friend Susan Wertman, Chaya Sarah bat Alta Yosef, Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa, myself and wife Karen, along with friends, in memory of her mother, Nechama bat Moshe HaKohen. Bob Ruvain is not going to be here today. So if you want to sit where he normally sits, okay. Charlie Gelfenstein, his father, he wasn't in davening. Meir ben Yaakov. Sorry, Marsha Fetterbush, her memory of her father, Menachem Mendel ben Shlomo. Reuven and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Freil Bas Shraga Feivel, Phyllis and Chaim Reese in memory of his father, Pinchas ben Avraham. Week of learning by late Stephen and Edie Vigdor in memory of his mother, Mendel Bas Rav Shmuel. A day, and that is it. May the Shemas have an aliyah, Krank Rafia Velti Yeshir Shema Tliya, L'chol B'nai Yisrael a good gebench job. Yeah, he wasn't in show this morning because he usually sits behind me. So that's why I don't think he'll be. Okay. All right, I don't see him on. Alan, are you the only one on?
As far as I can tell, yes, it says 2 participants, you and me.
All right, so, okay. All right. What? All right, so where are we? And Vav Amud Aleph, right? Sounds good. There's Vav, all right, Tanu Rabbanan, 4th line on the Amud, right? Tanu Rabbanan. Okay. All right. What happened to Sam?
Who?
Sam. Okay, maybe he'll come up. All right. Okay, so as we continue, before I start the Gemara, I want to remind everybody that we just davened in the Shema, in the middle paragraph of the Shema, right? If I took out the siddur and opened it up and looked through that section of the middle paragraph of the Shema, what would we find? Va'atzar, right? I didn't bring my siddur up with me. All right, and I'm sure there's at least one there. All right, Va'atzar lo yiyamatar. Thank you for the quotation. Where's Dov? Dov, that was your cue. Okay. Right. Oh, okay. All right, that's okay. Or Mel, right? You guys I used to go to a shiur where the Baal Kori attended, and the Magid shiur would stop if there was a pasuk, and the Baal Kori would be the one who would cite it. Okay, right? Okay, so basically, as you said, right, we have in the middle paragraph of the Shema, Vayam Shmo Tishmo, etc., and then it says, V'natati Esa b'sadeh v'mtecha, V'natata matar artzechem be'ito, Yoreh u'malkosh, right? So that pasuk, and then it says later, right? Where was it? I know I read it there this morning someplace. Okay, Vatsar, right? That's what it's saying. Okay, so I would point that out quickly because it connects with today's daf. All right? Okay, so we're on Vav Amud Aleph. Tanu Rabbanan, 4 lines down from the top. Tanu Rabbanan, Yoreh. What does it mean, Yoreh? Shemoreh et habriot lahatiach gagotehen. Okay, that it provides a message, okay, or it shows the people that it's time for them, the early rain, that it's time to plaster their roofs. Okay, ulahachniset peirotehen, and to bring in their produce. La'asot kol tzarchehen, and to do all their needs at that time of the year. Davar acher, another possibility, shamruha, okay, at haaretz, because it saturates or moistens the land, okay, umashket ad tehom, and that rain therefore goes all the way down to the depths. Shnei amar, okay, talmeha raveh nagedudeha bervivim timogagna samcha tivarech. Okay, pasuk from Tehillim. Davar acher, another example, yoreh sheyored banachat, that it rains, says it flows down gently, ve'eno yored beza'af, and it doesn't come down violently. Okay, vehemently was one translation. Okay, oh, eno yored ela shemashir et hakiporet, or that it's such that it doesn't fall, make the produce fall from the tree. Umashtif et hazraim, or it doesn't wash away the seeds. Umashtif et ha'ilonot, or flood and wash away the trees themselves, right? Okay, Talmud Lomar. Okay, so what about the other Malkosh? That was from the second part, right? What is that? Ma Malkosh lebracha, af yoreh lebracha. The same way the latter rain, okay, is right?
Beneficial.
Okay, is beneficial, right? Okay. Okay, so likewise, the earlier rain is beneficial. Oh, a no malkosh ella shemapil tabatim. Or perhaps we're going to say that this malkosh later rain is so strong that it wipes away houses. Umishaber et ha'ilonot, and it knocks down trees. Uma'ale et hasakaim, and it brings up the locusts. Right? Talmud Lomar, and again, the pasuk told us, Yoreh, ma yoreh lebracha, af ma kosh lebracha. The same way the early rain should come for blessing, so the latter rain should be for a blessing. The Gemara continues, V'yoreh gufei minalan, and the term yoreh itself, on what is it based? Tichtiv in Yoel, u'bnei Tzion gilu v'samchu b'Hashem Elokeichem ki natan lachem et ha'moreh l'tzedakah v'yored lachem geshem moreh u'malkosh barishon. So the fact that the pasuk has the word geshem in it, and then moreh u'malkosh, so that gives us the basis for malkosh as a term for rain. Okay, Tanu Rabbanim. Sorry, a new Braita. Yoreh b'mar cheshvan. Okay, when does this rain, this early rain come? Mar cheshvan, says one verse. Umalkosh b'Nisan. Okay, according to this Braita, and the latter rain comes in Nisan. Ata omer yoreh b'mar cheshvan umalkosh b'Nisan. I'm going to use the word here, you're claiming that the early rain comes in Mar Cheshvan, okay, and Malkosh, the later rain, comes in Nisan. O eno ela yoreh b'Tishrei umalkosh b'Iyar. Or perhaps it's such that the early rain comes in Tishrei, and the later rain, the secondary rain, the ending rain, so to speak, that brings the crops to their full potential, okay, comes in Iyar. Maybe that's the issue. Okay. Well, we didn't get there yet. Be'iyar. Talmud Lomar, okay, be'ito. But the pasuk said be'ito in its appropriate time. Malkosh. Okay. So what's then the question? What's the appropriate time for the latter rain? Amar Rav Nihilai, Bar Idi, Amar Shmuel, the name of Shmuel, Davar Shemal Kishiotehen Shel Yisrael. A play on the word Malkosh. What does it do? It circumcises the stubbornness of the Jewish people. Okay, that's his view. In other words, if they haven't been good in doing tshuva, by that point they need to. The Bei Rabbi Yishmael Tana, the Academy of Rabbi Yishmael taught it differently from Malkosh. Davar shemimale tvu'a b'kashya. It's something that fills the grain to its stalks, right? B'matnita Tana, and we learned this in a Braita. Davar sheyored al hamililot va'al hakashim. Excuse me, something that falls on the ears and on the stalks. Tanu Rabbanan, a new Braita. Yoreh b'mar cheshvan umalkosh b'Nisan. Same Braita really, but we're going to give us a different explanation. Ata omer yoreh b'mar cheshvan o ino ela b'chodesh kislev. You said the yoreh, the early rain, comes in Mar Cheshvan, or maybe it doesn't come till Kislev, right? Which is another whole month later. Talmud Lomar, however, the text in Dvarim says as follows: Be'ito Yoreh umalkosh, in its appropriate time, the early and the latter rain. Ma malkosh beito, af yoreh beito. The same way the later rain comes in its appropriate time, so the early rain will come in its appropriate time. Kevan shiatza Nisan v'yerdu gshamim eino siman bracha. Okay, since we say that Nisan has completed and the rains have fallen, it is not necessarily an example of blessing, of benefit. Tanya Ida. And we have another bright. Yoreh b'mar cheshvan umalkosh b'nisan. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That according to Rabbi Meir, the Yoreh, the early rain is in Mar Cheshvan, the later rain is in Nisan. But v'chachamim omrim, however, the sages say, Yoreh b'Kislev, that it's possible that the early rain won't come till Kislev. Man chachamim, which sages are we talking about? Amar Rav Chisda. This is Rav Chisda in the following suggestion. Rabbi Yossi. It's the view of Rabbi Yossi de Tanya, who taught in a Braita. Ezohi Revi'ah Rishona. Okay, what is the, let's say, first rain? We'll translate Revi'ah here as
Yomi has three sort of
segments.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this is the
right.
first third.
So Cohen had an interesting side a perush here. Okay, that when it talked about the three segments, it suggested it had to do with the issue of a year that was a leap year. The year before, okay, one was the
That's
year
when
before.
shifts,
Okay, one was the year after the year that was the leap year, and one was the leap year itself. Okay, when it said first, second, third. Okay, but anyway, so what had happened? When is this early rain? Habachira, namely, right, the earliest date. Okay, Bishlosha b'Mar Cheshvan is the third of Mar Cheshvan. Beinonit, in an in-between year. B'Shiv'a bo, on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. Afela, the latest. B'Shiva Asar bo, the 17th of Mar Cheshvan. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that was the view of Rabbi Meir. So okay.
Why would they custom on these things when it can be so easily changed by the weather?
No, they didn't. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda, slightly different explanation. Okay, B'Shiva on the 7th, B'Yud Zion on the 17th, U'Be'esrim B'Shlosha, and then the 23rd.
But
Okay, so notice, however, that even though Rabbi Yehuda gave slightly different dates, okay, he still agreed that it was in Mar Cheshvan, right? That was my Rabbi Yossi Omer, again, B'Yud Zion on the 17th, U'Bekaf Gimel, the 23rd, U'Berosh Chodesh Kislev, right? So Rabbi Yossi was of the view it's possible, okay, that in a year that the first rain won't come till Kislev,
the last wave.
right? Okay, right. So what happens? V'chein haya Rabbi Yossi Omer, excuse me, and thus Rabbi Yossi would say, Ein hayechidim mit'anin ad sheyagia Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So according to Rabbi Yossi, we would not start fast days
for rain.
because of drought, all right, until there was a problem with the third cycle of early rain, okay, which was beginning of Kislev.
That's how we custom.
Well, we'll see. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, halacha ka Rabbi Yossi. That's how Rav Chisda paskin. Okay. However, a memar matni la. Okay, I'm sorry. A memar matni laha, the Rav Chisda baha lishna. But a memar, I'm going to say, taught the ruling of Rav Chisda, namely that the halacha was like Rabbi Yossi, in the following language, in the following approach. Bishlosha b'Mar Cheshvan shoalim et hageshamim. And the third of Mar Cheshvan, we start requesting the rain. Rabban Gamliel Omer b'Shiv Abo. He suggested on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan, which would seem to imply he held more like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? Now, Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says as follows: Halacha Rabban Gamliel. But here, Rav Chisda said the law is like Rabban Gamliel. Okay? Kiman Asla. Okay? How do we then go? Ha, Tanya. Here, however, okay, what is it taught? When we say here, we're talking about, I'm sorry.
Eretz Yisrael.
Okay. I lost my place for a moment. Okay. Okay, so he says as follows. Okay. So here he's saying, here how it was taught. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Kishamim sheyardu sheva yamim ze achar ze. Okay, when we have a situation where, okay, we say that it rains 7 days in a row, continuously, right? Atam moneh bahem revi'ah rishona ushniya ushlishit. Therefore, do we consider all these, the 7-day period, the 3 cycles of the early rain? Keman, according to whom? Rabbi Yossi.
Because he had the narrowest first.
Parameters.
Right.
Okay, that
He
was
had
the point.
11 days.
Right? Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rav Chisda. Halacha Rabbi Yossi. Maybe that's the reason that Rav Chisda said that the law was like Rabbi Yossi. Bishlema Revi'ah Rishona Lish'ot. That's understandable that we might say for the first cycle of the 3 sets that we start requesting. Shlishit Lehit Anot. Okay, and that Rabbi Yossi also said, don't start announcing a community fast for lack of rain till it comes to Rosh Chodesh Kislev, which was the 3rd, the latest, okay, the latest of the 3 cycles. So Gemara therefore asked, Shnia Lamai. So what is the importance of recognizing a date for the 2nd of the cycle? Amar Rabbi Zera Ulinadarim. That was for the purpose of vows, namely Ditznan, as we go over to the next Amud Beis, as taught in a Mishnah, Hanoder Ad Hagshamim. What if somebody makes a neder and says, I will not benefit from such and such until the rains come?
It's a plural, that's why it's the second.
Right? Right. So what happens? Until the rains, so rains is plural, what happens? Mishayardug shamin ad shetered revi'ah shniya. Where we say it rains until the rains come, until the 2nd cycle of the early rain. Now, Rav Zavid Amar. Rav Zavid gives a different suggestion why the 2nd timing, okay, is important. Why we need that date. What does he say? L'zeitin. It deals with the collection and the whole situation with the olives. T'tznan, as it says, Meimatai kol adam mutarin beleket b'shichacha u'bepeya. At what point do we say that all other people, right? Remember, leket shichacha b'peya are for the aniyim, okay? So at what point may other people, they get first crack, right? Okay, so when might others have that opportunity? Meshayelchu hanimushot, okay? Once the searchers, that's the last of the poor or the elderly, okay? Beprat, okay? Okay, what about the next part? The parrot uba olelot. What about single grapes or incompletely formed clusters of grapes? Mishayelchu aniyim bekerem v'yavo. Once the poor people have passed through the vineyard and they've gone. So in other words, it's a second cycle of people coming through. Bezeitin, but you said it was regard to Rabbi Zavid suggested it was regards the olives. Mishatered rivi ashnia. Once the second cycle of rain falls, therefore my nimushot. What do you mean then when we said that, right, that this group is nimushot? Okay. All right. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he says, Save da'azle atigra. Those are the elders who have to walk with a staff, with a cane. Right. Okay. Rabbi Reish Lakish Amar. Reish Lakish gives a little different. Okay, nimushot. What's left? Likute batar likute. He says, according to Reish Lakish, it's the gleaners that come after the earlier gleaners. That's how he explains. Okay, let's go now to Rav Papa. Okay. All right, Rav Papa Amar. Kadei lahalech b'shvilei harishut. Okay, why do you need that date? He's giving a whole different explanation. In order for people to use those pathways that have given, where it's permitted to go through private property. Okay? Without trampling the plants. Okay? In other words, you wouldn't walk through persons' fields, okay, and destroy their crops. But there were directions given, if I remember correctly, from Yehoshua, okay, that after the season for the produce, one should allow pathways for people to use as shortcuts. Okay, so that's the point. The Amar Mar, as the master was said, Mahalchin kol adam b'shvilei harishut ad shetired rivi ashniya. That it's permitted for people to use these permitted pathways until the coming of the second cycle. Okay, ad shetired rivi ashniya. Till. Okay, Rav. Right. Right. Okay. Once that rainfall has occurred, following. Okay. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Okay. Levaer Perot Shvi'it. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak wants to give again a different explanation why that second cycle of rain is required in order to destroy produce of Shvi. Okay, the Tznan, as was taught elsewhere in a Mishnah, Ad matai nehenin v'sorfin b'teven u'bakash shel Shvi. Up to what time is it possible to benefit? And then one has the obligation to burn, okay, regarding straw or other kinds of similar fodder, okay, that was produced during Shvi'it, ad shetired revi'ah shniya, up till the time of the second cycle of rain. My tama, what's the reasoning? Dichtiv, because it's written in Vayikra, ulevahem techa, ulechaya asher ba'artzecha, for the domestic and wild animals that are in your land. Namely, kol zman shechaya ochelet b'sadeh, so long as undomesticated animals are able to eat out in the field, ha'achel v'hem techa b'bayit, you are permitted to feed similar kinds of fodder or straw to your domestic animals at home. Kala l'chaya min hasadeh, once that wild growth is no longer available for the wild animals to eat it, okay? Kala levahem techa min habayit. you must finish, therefore, feeding your domestic animals at home. Now, a new piece from our Gemara. Amar Rabbi Abahu. This is Rabbi Abahu. Mai lashon revia. What about the language of using the word revia? Okay, we're familiar with yoreh, malkosh, geshem. Those are words that are more commonly referred to as designations of rain. Where do we suddenly get the word revia to deal with the word rain? So we're going to try a few suggestions. Davar sherova et hakarka. It is something that penetrates, okay, or causes the produce to bear fruit.
The water
right?
penetrates
It's the ground.
soil.
Sort. Kedarav Yehuda, as was suggested by Rav Yehuda. Da'amar Rav Yehuda, who says, Mitra Ba'ala Da'ara, that rain is the husband, used, okay, the partner, I'm going to say, of the land. Who? Shnei Amar, as it says in Yeshayahu, Ki ka'asher yarad hageshem v'hasheleg min hashamayim v'shama lo yashuv ki im hareveh et haaretz v'holida v'hitzmicha. Nice use of the pasuk, by the way. So that rain and snow don't go back up, okay? However, they come down and they penetrate the land and they produce and help
the
things
soil
grow.
gives birth to the plant.
Right. Va'amar Rabbi Abahu. And Rabbi Abahu gives a slightly different explanation. Revi'ah Rishona Kadeshi Tered Bekarka Tefa. That this early first cycle of rain comes to penetrate the earth a small amount of tefa. Shnia Kadei Laguf Ba Pei Chavit. Okay, and the second, okay, cycle of rain comes to produce.
The earth is moist enough.
Okay,
that you can clump
to
it
well,
together
wait a second.
and use
So
it as
the first is to penetrate the earth a little bit. The second has got to be enough rain so that what happens is it creates some mud or some plaster, and you can use that to be able to cover the top of a barrel, spout of a barrel. Okay, laguf ba pi chavit. The third, Amar Rav Chisda, Gshamim sheyardu kadei laguf bahen pi chavit. You're saying that rain has to be strong enough to create mud or plaster, clay. Let's use clay as a better example. Okay, to cover a spout of a barrel. Ein bahem mishum va'atzar. He says, but that does not fulfill the fact that we have the pasuk in the Kriyat Shema in the morning, okay, that says that Hashem will stop up the rain.
hold back.
All right, hold it back. Va'amar Rav Chisda, Kshamim sheyardu kodem va'atzar. Okay, the rain, says Rav Chisda, that came earlier, that fulfills the requirement of the morning Shema, upholding stoppage. Ein behem mishum va'atzar, and you say they don't fulfill that requirement of Hashem withholding the rain. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, lo amran elekodem va'atzar de urta. Okay, Abaye is saying, no, we don't say it up when we're referring up to at the point of stopping or withholding the rain, when it's the evening Shema. Aval kodem va'atzar de tzafra. But if it's before the recitation of va'atzar, the middle paragraph of Shema in the morning, yesh bahen mishum va'atzar. That does fulfill.
Is not so
that does fulfill the requirement of the pasuk that the rain was withheld. In other words, in this case, Abai would say delayed. Right? Da'amar Rav Yehuda bar Yitzchak, as says by Rabbi Yehuda bar Yitzchak, the following: Hani anani b'tzafra lit baho mashasha. Those clouds of the morning, they're not mamash, they're not strong, they're not major, they're not full, complete, all right? As it said, Ma'aselach Ephraim, Ma'aselach Yehuda, V'chastechem ka'anan boker v'gomer. That your kindnesses are more like morning clouds. In other words, there's nothing to it, right? There's nothing to it. Okay? V'gomer. Amar le Rav Papa le Abaye. So Rav Papa says to Abaye the following: Vaha amre inshe. But what about the fact that people say, b'mafteich babe mitra bar chamra moch shakar gane? That people have this common expression that the doors or the gates, the key to opening the gates or the doors is rain. Okay, bar chamra moch shachar. Okay, and there, okay, we are okay, right? The question,
camel drivers.
right? And what happens if it's raining in the morning? Bar chamra, you say to the camel driver, moch sakcha, close up your bags. In other words, you can sleep late that morning. Vegane, you can sleep late because you're not going to have any business. The camel,
Because the grain's
the
wet.
donkey drivers, the donkey drivers,
You
right?
can't
It's too
pack
wet.
it in and deliver it to the market if it's
Right.
all wet.
Right, low kasha. Says no problem. Ha dekatir ba'eva. On the one hand, we're saying the question is if it's thick with clouds, if it's overcast. Ha dekatir ba'anane. And here, with the other time, we're saying if it's light clouds, right? It's not really overcast. Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda. Okay, Tava lishata the tevet amalta. Okay, he's going to give us a different explanation that it's good for a year when the tevet, the month of tevet, is a widow. In other words, it's without rain. Okay, that's the point. Okay, ikeda amre. And there are those, however, who say it a little differently. De lo bier, okay, that we say that in this case it's okay, it's not the no blight there. Tarbitzi, right? The blight tarbitzi,
No rain and
right? Then you don't have any. It's not.
people can go.
It's
to
not
the shear.
disgusting, right? Ve'ikada amre, and others say delo shakil shudfana. Okay, that we say it's not something. It's not like a flood. It's not disgusting. Aini, is that really the case? V'ha'amar Rav Chisda, but didn't Rav Chisda say tava l'shata the tavet menavlata? That Rav Chisda said it's good for the year when tevet is muddy, is disgusting. Okay, lo kasha. That's not a problem, right? Ha da'ata mitra meikara. In one case, we're saying where the rain came originally, earlier, much earlier. Ha delo ata mitra meikara.
That's when
And
it's
here,
the first rain.
okay, when it didn't come earlier. Okay, let's go on. Va'amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda as follows again. Shamim sheyardu al miktsat medina. If the rain fell on a section of the land, of the section of the country, va'al miktsat medina lo yardu, and on a part of the land, part of the country, it doesn't fall. Ein bahem mishum ba'atza. That does not fulfill the implication of the pasuk that Hashem is withholding. Right? Right? Aini, is that really the case? Asks the Gemara. V'haktiv, but isn't it written in Amos? V'gam anochi minati mikem et hageshem ba'od shlosha chodashim lekatzir v'himtarti al ir achat va'al ir achat lo amtir, chelka achat hamtar v'gomer. Okay, the pasuk saying it's very possible that Hashem is saying, I'll let it rain in one place and I won't let it rain, excuse me, in another, right? Isn't that then an example of Hashem withholding the rain and should fulfill that pasuk, right? Va'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. He says, Shtehen lekal kalala. In both cases, it's for a curse. It's no good. Lo kasha. But here it's not a problem. Ha, in this case, the ata tuba. It comes for good.
The place that had rain can grow enough
Right.
rain to feed everybody. That's what it means, the food, that there's plenty of grain.
Right, there's a lot.
To feed
Ha
everybody.
did the ata tuba, that there's a lot. Okay, I didn't see anything that said comes to feed the other location. Ha da ata kidamabaile. And in the other place, it comes enough for suffice it, to be sufficient for it. Amar Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi says, Daikanami. This is what's intended, it means. Tichtiv, right? Why? Because we have a pasuk that says, Timater tehe makom matar shmamina. Okay, that when it says timater, that it shall have some rain, that place will have rain. And that's what we learn from that. Now, a new statement by Rabbi Abahu. Me matai mevarchin al hagshamim. At one point, do we say, if we want to say a blessing regarding the rain? Okay? Mishayatsa chatan lekrat kala. Okay, when the groom comes out to meet the bride. Now, what do we mean by that? The Perush I found suggests that it was when raindrops come and hit puddles.
Yeah, and then they bounce out.
Okay, and then what happens? The rain coming from heaven. All right, it's like the groom who is left to go meet the bride, and the bride is at her home where she comes and he brings her from the home and takes her to the chuppah. Things are back to his home.
The bounce up water is the chassan going to meet the falling down rain is the kala. When
I read a different. I read a different one. Okay, it's the same image.
The chassan comes out from the chuppah to get the kala.
Yeah, but this was different. No, this explanation said he leaves his home, he goes to the home of the bride's father to get her, and then he brings her back to his home.
It's the same thing.
It's the same concept. Same concept, just different. Okay. My Mevarech, what does he say? Amar Rav Yehuda. He says Amar Rav in the name of Rav. Okay. Modim anachnu lach, Hashem Elokim. Right? Al kol tipa v'tipa shehoradata lanu. Okay, that's what he says. Right? Thanking Hashem for each drop. Rabbi Yochanan, Messiahim Bahachi. And Rabbi Yochanan then finishes it. Ilu finu malei shira, kayam u'lashonenu rina, kahamon galav, v'chule. In other words, he continues with the rest of Nishmat Kol Chai until he finishes up. Ad al ya'azvunu rachamecha Hashem Elokeinu v'lo azvunu baruch rov hahoda'ah. So that's how he finishes it, and he puts a chatima of baruch rov hahoda'ot on this blessing. So the Gemara asks, rov hahoda'ot v'lo kol hahoda'ot? Okay, is that the kind of chatima closing you put on a blessing? Right? Amar Rava, says Rava, Ema, okay, Gel hahoda'ot. So say it that way. Amar Rav Papa, and we'll just go over a tiny bit. Says Rav Papa, Hilkach nimrinhu letravaihu. Therefore, we'll say both Gel hahoda'ot, v'rav hahoda'ot. And that's where we'll stop. Okay, in the top of Zion. All right, I know it's a lot of Gemara. You know,
Yeah.
notice how long all these Hamudim are. All right,
That's no taste for sin.
well,
When they're a taste for sin, they're short.
all right. Okay, Alan, take care.
You too. Thank you so much.
That's what you should say in the pub. Uh-huh.
You know,
Cozy pub. That shows your British origins, that you call it a pub instead of a bar. Mhm.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
I've just my own idea.
Yeah.
Why do we say nishmas in